What if I told you that behind the golden gates of Hollywood's most exclusive neighborhoods, some of the biggest stars in history built homes so bizarre, so psychologically revealing, that their families and estates have spent decades trying to keep them secret? Tonight, we're taking you inside 21 documented celebrity mansions where the rich and famous let their true personalities run wild. These aren't rumors or gossip. These are verified features discovered through estate sales, public records, and first-hand accounts from people who actually visited these incredible homes. You're about to discover why Charlie Chaplin built secret tunnels under his house, which silent film star had a hidden bar that transformed into a private movie theater, and which Hollywood legend created a pink paradise so intense that visitors needed sunglasses indoors. Are you ready to step inside the real homes where Hollywood legends lived their most authentic lives? Prepare to see your favorite stars in a completely new light. Number 21. Charlie Chaplin, the Comedy King's underground network. Charlie Chaplin's Beverly Hills home, built in the 1920s, appeared modest from the outside, exactly what you'd expect from a man who understood the common person so well. But beneath this unassuming exterior lay features that would make a spy envious. Public records and estate documentation revealed that Chaplin had constructed a hidden tunnel system beneath his house. The main passage reportedly led to a discreet wine cellar, but neighbors and visitors described a more extensive network that allowed Chaplin to move around his property unseen. According to those who visited during his lifetime, Chaplin used these tunnels to avoid nosy reporters who often camped outside his home, especially during the politically charged McCarthy era when his alleged communist sympathies made him a target. Former staff members described him emerging from unexpected locations during parties, delighting guests with his theatrical entrances. The property also featured a miniature stage in the gardens where Chaplin would rehearse comedic routines before filming. Friends recalled watching him perfect his famous walk or test new gags in this private performance space, treating it like his personal laboratory for physical comedy. What's most revealing about Chaplin's home is how it maintained the original 1920s decor throughout his residence there. Despite his enormous wealth and success, he never felt the need to modernize or show off. This suggests a man who remained connected to his humble beginnings even as he became one of the world's most famous entertainers. Number 20. Gloria Swanson, the dramatic diva's Spanish castle. Gloria Swanson's Beverly Hills mansion, known as Casa del Sol, was every bit as dramatic as the star herself. Built in the 1920s, with eye-catching Spanish Moorish architecture, it featured arched doorways, beautifully detailed tiles, and what estate records show was a private chapel within the home. Swanson, one of Hollywood's earliest true celebrities, filled her house with exotic collectibles that reflected her worldly travels and sophisticated tastes. Auction records from after her death document Egyptian artifacts, unique antiques from around the world, and art pieces that she had personally collected during her international career. Visitors and staff members who worked at Casa del Sol described hidden passageways that led to small, out-of-sight rooms. These were reportedly used for private meetings during Hollywood's golden age, when studio politics and personal affairs required discretion. One passage allegedly connected to a secret room where Swanson could retreat when overwhelmed by the constant attention her fame brought. The mansion became famous for hosting parties that stood out even in a town built on spectacle. Guest lists from these events, preserved in Hollywood archives, included some of the biggest names of the era. However, as Swanson's career began to fade in the 1930s with the transition to talking pictures, maintaining such a grand estate became increasingly difficult. Number 19. Errol Flynn, the swashbuckler's secret spy den. Errol Flynn's Mulholland Farm was the perfect playground for the dashing swashbuckler of films Captain Blood and The Adventures of Robin Hood. Perched in the Hollywood Hills and built in the 1940s, the estate boasted features that seemed designed for someone with Flynn's reputation for adventure and mischief. Estate records and accounts from visitors reveal that Flynn had installed secret passages throughout the property, including one that led to a hidden bedroom. This wasn't just Hollywood theatrics. Flynn reportedly used these passages for practical purposes, including discreet entertaining and avoiding unwanted visitors or creditors. Perhaps most intriguingly, the house featured a two-way mirror that allowed Flynn to observe visitors unnoticed. Former guests and staff members described this feature as being in the main entertaining area, suggesting Flynn enjoyed watching people when they thought they were alone. The property also included a private pistol range where Flynn could practice shooting, reflecting his love of adventure and action. Friends noted that he took this hobby seriously, often challenging guests to competitions and displaying an almost obsessive attention to marksmanship that went beyond casual sport. Number 18. Mae West, The Diamond Lil's White Paradise. Mae West chose a different path than most of her Hollywood peers by living in the historic Ravenswood building in Hancock Park rather than a sprawling mansion. However, her apartment was anything but ordinary, reflecting her unique personality and theatrical sensibilities. According to estate records and accounts from visitors, West decorated her space almost entirely in white, from plush white carpets to mirrored walls that created an almost ethereal atmosphere. This monochromatic scheme wasn't just aesthetic. It was said to reflect West's belief that white represented purity and power. The most famous feature was West's custom-designed seashell-shaped bed, which became legendary in Hollywood circles. This piece wasn't just whimsical, perfectly embodied the sensual, playful persona that made West famous. The bed, along with other custom furniture pieces, was documented in estate inventories after her death. West kept extensive memorabilia from her film career throughout the apartment, including flamboyant costumes, props, and photographs that traced her rise from vaudeville performer to Hollywood star. Visitors noted that these items were displayed more like museum pieces than casual decoration, suggesting West viewed her apartment as a shrine to her own career. Number 17. John Barrymore, The Great Profile's Gothic Castle. John Barrymore's Bella Vista estate in Beverly Hills was a perfect reflection of the man known as The Great Profile. Theatrical, dramatic, and filled with surprises. Built in the 1920s, the property showcased Barrymore's love of classical theater and his complex, often troubled personality. Estate inventories reveal that Barrymore filled Bella Vista with rare books and manuscripts, some stored in secret compartments built into the walls of his grand library. These hidden storage areas weren't just for show. Barrymore was a serious collector of literary works and reportedly used the concealed spaces to protect his most valuable items. The house featured a private stage where Barrymore could rehearse Shakespearean roles or entertain friends with impromptu performances. Staff and visitors described these sessions as intense and passionate, with Barrymore treating his home stage with the same seriousness as a professional theater. The Gothic-style furnishings, dark wood panels, and dramatic lighting throughout the house created an atmosphere that guests described as both impressive and slightly unsettling. Everything about Bella Vista suggested this was no ordinary movie star's residence, but rather the home of a serious, dramatic artist who lived and breathed theater. Number 16. Hedy Lamarr, The Inventor's Hidden Laboratory. Hedy Lamarr's Hollywood Hills home appeared to be a typical 1940s modern mansion, with clean lines and large windows that let in California's abundant sunshine. But behind this facade of movie star glamour lay something extraordinary. A private workshop where one of Hollywood's most beautiful actresses pursued her passion for invention. Estate records and interviews with people who knew Lamarr personally reveal that she kept a fully equipped laboratory hidden from Hollywood's cameras. In this secret space, she worked on ideas that would later contribute to technologies like Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, developing the frequency hopping concept that was decades ahead of its time. Lamarr rarely brought visitors into her workshop, and few people in the film community knew about her scientific pursuits. This wasn't false modesty. In an era when leading ladies were expected to be beautiful and glamorous rather than intellectual, Lamarr understood that her inventive side might damage her career prospects. The workshop contained technical books, drafting equipment, and various mechanical devices that Hedy Lamarr used to explore her ideas. Friends who did know about this hidden aspect of her life described her as being genuinely passionate about problem solving and invention, treating her scientific work with the same seriousness that other stars devoted to their appearance or social lives. What makes Lamarr's story particularly poignant is how she felt compelled to hide her intelligence and creativity from an industry that valued her only for her beauty. The secret workshop represented everything Hollywood didn't want her to be: serious, intellectual, and focused on substance rather than image. Number 15. Howard Hughes, The Aviator's Paranoid Fortress. Howard Hughes's Beverly Hills estate, Evolution, mirrors the tragic transformation of a brilliant innovator into a reclusive hermit. Purchased in the 1920s when Hughes was still a dashing aviator and filmmaker, the property gradually became a fortress reflecting his increasing paranoia and mental illness. Initially, the estate featured cutting-edge technology that reflected Hughes's passion for aviation and innovation. He built his own airstrip on the grounds, allowing him to come and go without dealing with commercial airports or public spaces. This wasn't just convenient, it was an early sign of Hughes's desire to control every aspect of his environment. As Hughes's mental health deteriorated through the 1940s and 1950s, the house underwent dramatic modifications. Former employees and business associates described how Hughes had rooms sealed off, air filtration systems installed, and complex protocols established for anyone who wanted to enter his living spaces. The property's final incarnation included hidden rooms and elaborate security measures that went far beyond typical celebrity privacy needs. Hughes reportedly had passageways built that allowed him to move through the house without being seen by staff, and installed surveillance equipment to monitor activity throughout the property. Dolores Del Rio, the Mexican star's modernist statement. Dolores Del Rio's Los Angeles home made a bold architectural statement that reflected both her pride in Mexican culture and her embrace of cutting-edge modernist design. Built in the 1920s by forward-thinking architect Richard Neutra, the house stood out dramatically from the ornate mansions favored by most Hollywood stars. The sleek structure featured large windows and open floor plans that created a clean, minimal aesthetic, revolutionary for its time in celebrity residences. Estate records show that Del Rio specifically chose this modernist approach to present what she called a new vision of luxury that emphasized space, light, and artistic integrity over ostentation. Inside, Del Rio displayed art and cultural artifacts from her homeland, creating a personal oasis that celebrated her Mexican heritage. Visitors, including famous artists like Diego Rivera and Frida Kahlo, found the house a refreshing alternative to typical Hollywood style, appreciating how Del Rio had merged cultural pride with architectural innovation. The house became a gathering place for creative professionals who were drawn to its unique atmosphere. Writers, painters, and fellow actors frequented Del Rio's home, finding inspiration in an environment that valued artistic expression over material display. Number 13, James Dean, the rebel's modest refuge. James Dean's final home, a small bungalow in Sherman Oaks, painted a very different picture from the high-speed, rebellious image he projected on screen. In the mid-1950s, at the height of his fame, Dean chose this unremarkable rental over the flashy mansions that other young stars preferred. The house itself was ordinary, but what made it special were the glimpses it offered into Dean's private personality. Friends who visited described a more reflective side of the actor, someone who spent time sketching, reading scripts, and experimenting with musical instruments like bongos, revealing artistic curiosities that extended beyond acting. Dean's famous Porsche 550 Spyder, which would later become tragically significant in his fatal accident, was kept in the garage of this modest home. Neighbors recalled seeing him working on the car himself, suggesting someone who preferred hands-on activities to the typical Hollywood social scene. Close friends noted that Dean used the bungalow as a retreat from the pressure of studio demands. Here, he could simply be himself without constantly performing for others or maintaining the rebellious image that had made him famous. The house represented normalcy in a life that was rapidly becoming anything but normal. After Dean's shocking death in 1955, the bungalow remained largely unchanged, like a time capsule of that brief, brilliant phase in his life. The owner kept it as Dean had left it for several years, with fans occasionally making pilgrimages to see where their idol had spent his final months. Number 12, Jayne Mansfield, the Pink Palace of Excess. Jayne Mansfield's Beverly Hills home, famously known as the Pink Palace, was impossible to miss or forget. Built in the late 1950s, every surface that could legally be painted pink was pink, creating a visual experience that visitors described as both stunning and overwhelming. Estate sale records reveal the extent of Mansfield's pink obsession. The color covered not just walls and furnishings, but extended to custom-made items like pink carpeting, pink appliances, and even a pink toilet that became legendary among Hollywood circles. This wasn't subtle decorating, it was an all-out assault of bubblegum brightness. The property's most famous feature was a heart-shaped swimming pool decorated with a mosaic that read, "I love you, Janie," a tribute from her husband, Mickey Hargitay, the former Mr. Universe. The pool area also featured a fountain that Mansfield would sometimes fill with pink champagne for her elaborate parties. Inside, every room told the story of Mansfield's desire to stand out in a Hollywood that often compared her unfavorably to Marilyn Monroe. The pink theme extended to her bedroom, bathroom, and even kitchen, creating an environment that was undeniably unique, but also somewhat overwhelming to inhabit daily. Number 11. Buster Keaton, the silent star's elaborate estate. Buster Keaton's Beverly Hills estate was a testament to the incredible success he achieved during the golden age of silent films. Built in the 1920s when Keaton was at his creative and financial peak, the mansion featured 20 rooms filled with surprises that reflected his inventive, comedic style. The property included extravagant features that seemed almost too good to be true: a Roman-style swimming pool, a trout stream running through the grounds, and an aviary filled with exotic birds. These weren't just status symbols. They demonstrated the level of success that silent film stars could achieve in Hollywood's early days. Keaton's inventive nature showed up in the house's design, including a hidden bar that could transform into a private screening room, perfect for a filmmaker who wanted to entertain guests while also showcasing his work. Friends and colleagues who visited described elaborate dinner parties, followed by private film screenings in this converted space. The estate represented the pinnacle of Keaton's career, when he was considered one of the greatest comedic talents in cinema. However, it also foreshadowed the difficult times ahead, as the lavish property became increasingly expensive to maintain as his career prospects changed with the advent of talking pictures. Number 10. Marion Davies, The Mistress's Seaside Palace. Marion Davies' Ocean House in Santa Monica was more than just a mansion. It was a statement about power, ambition, and the complex relationships that defined Hollywood's golden age. Completed in the 1920s with financial backing from her powerful companion William Randolph Hearst, the property rivaled actual palaces in its scope and grandeur. Estate records document an almost unbelievable scale: over 100 rooms, 55 bathrooms, and 37 fireplaces spread across the oceanfront property. The centerpiece was a 110-foot swimming pool flanked by marble statues and elaborate landscaping that created an environment of classical luxury rarely seen even in Hollywood. Davies used the mansion to host legendary parties that drew some of the most famous people in the world. Guest lists preserved in archives include names like Winston Churchill, Charlie Chaplin, and countless Hollywood stars who made the pilgrimage to Santa Monica to experience Davies' hospitality. Number 9. Rudolph Valentino, The Sheik's Cursed Castle. Rudolph Valentino's Falcon Lair was more than just a home. It became a symbol of the tragic romance between Hollywood dreams and harsh reality. Built in the 1920s in Beverly Hills, the estate reflected Valentino's Italian heritage with its sprawling gardens, arched doorways, and sweeping staircase that evoked medieval European grandeur. Named after his film The Hooded Falcon, the estate represented everything Valentino had worked to achieve in America. He poured both his fortune and his passion into creating Falcon Lair, designing it as a retreat where he could escape the pressures of being Hollywood's first major sex symbol. Tragically, Valentino barely had time to enjoy his dream home. Just months after moving in, he died unexpectedly at age 31, leaving fans worldwide heartbroken and the estate as a monument to unfulfilled dreams. After Valentino's death, mourning fans flocked to the estate, leaving flowers at the gates and creating makeshift shrines to their lost idol. In the early 2000s, Falcon Lair was finally demolished, ending its physical presence in Hollywood. However, its story continues as a ghostly reminder of how quickly fame can turn to tragedy, and how the pursuit of the American dream can sometimes become a nightmare. Number 8. Mary Pickford, America's Sweetheart's Royal Residence. Mary Pickford's mansion, known as Pickfair, was more than just a celebrity home. It was Hollywood royalty's palace. Built in the 1920s, this 42-room estate in Beverly Hills became a symbol of the power and prestige that Pickford held as one of Hollywood's earliest superstars. Pickford shared Pickfair with Douglas Fairbanks, and together they transformed it into the social center of Hollywood's golden age. Estate records and guest books reveal visits from some of the most important figures of the time, including Albert Einstein, Charlie Chaplin, Amelia Earhart, and world leaders who treated Pickfair like an unofficial embassy. The mansion represented more than just luxury. It was a carefully crafted image of respectability for an industry that was often viewed with suspicion by mainstream America. Pickford and Fairbanks used Pickfair to show that movie stars could be cultured, sophisticated, and worthy of respect. However, behind the glamorous facade lay a more complex story. After Pickford and Fairbanks divorced in the 1930s, she withdrew from public life, spending her later years increasingly isolated within Pickfair's luxurious walls. Staff and occasional visitors described her as haunted by memories of her past fame and lost relationship. The end of Pickfair came in the 1990s when the new owner, actress Pia Zadora, had it demolished despite protests from film preservationists. Number 7. Douglas Fairbanks, the athletic star's adventure compound. Douglas Fairbanks, known for his athletic roles in films like The Thief of Baghdad and Robin Hood, created a personal playground that matched his energetic screen persona. Beyond his shared residence at Pickfair with Mary Pickford, Fairbanks maintained a separate Santa Monica estate called Fairbanks Ranch. The property featured elaborate landscaped gardens, a private lake, and a charming boathouse that reflected Fairbanks' love of outdoor activities and adventure. Estate plans show that he designed the entire property as a series of connected recreational areas where he could pursue various athletic interests. One of the most intriguing features was a hidden tunnel connecting the main house to the boathouse. Staff and visitors reported that Fairbanks would use this passage either to avoid nosy reporters or to make dramatic entrances for his guests, behavior that perfectly matched his swashbuckling screen image. The property included a modern gymnasium and tennis court where Fairbanks hosted spirited matches that attracted Hollywood's biggest stars. These weren't casual games, but serious competitions that revealed Fairbanks' intense competitive nature and his need to excel in every physical activity he attempted. As his marriage to Pickford ended and his movie popularity began to wane, Fairbanks spent increasing amounts of time at the ranch, using it as a refuge from public scrutiny. Financial pressures forced Fairbanks to sell the ranch, and the property was subdivided for development. Number 6. Alla Nazimova, the Garden of Allah's Bohemian Paradise. Alla Nazimova's Garden of Allah on Sunset Boulevard was unlike any other property in Hollywood, serving as a refuge for the industry's more unconventional and creative minds. A Russian-born actress and producer, Nazimova purchased the mansion in the 1910s and transformed it into an avant-garde retreat that challenged Hollywood's conservative norms. The property featured guest villas and an eye-catching swimming pool that Nazimova had designed to evoke the Black Sea of her homeland. This wasn't just decorative, it represented her desire to create a piece of Russia in Hollywood, a place where she could maintain her cultural identity while building an American career. Nazimova's guest list read like a who's who of artistic and literary talent. F. Scott Fitzgerald, Greta Garbo, and Errol Flynn all found respite at the Garden of Allah, drawn by the relaxed atmosphere and Nazimova's open-minded approach to creativity and lifestyle. The property became particularly important as a safe haven for those who didn't fit Hollywood's conventional mold. However, financial pressures forced Nazimova to sell the property in the 1920s. It was subsequently converted into a hotel, which maintained some of the original bohemian atmosphere while serving a broader clientele, hosting literary figures. Eventually, the entire property was demolished in the 1950s, erasing one of Hollywood's most important cultural landmarks. Number 5. William Randolph Hearst, the media baron's American Versailles. William Randolph Hearst's San Simeon estate, often called Hearst Castle, represents perhaps the most extravagant celebrity residence ever created. Built continuously from the 1910s through the 1940s, the estate sprawled across California's central coast with a scale that defied belief even by Hollywood standards. Official records document the estate's staggering scope: 165 rooms, extensive formal and informal gardens, and 2 enormous swimming pools, including the famous Neptune pool decorated with real gold tiles. Every element was designed to showcase Hearst's wealth and sophisticated tastes. Hearst spared no expense importing authentic architectural elements from Europe, including entire ceilings, wall panels, and sculptures that were carefully transported and reassembled at San Simeon. Art historians estimate that the collection housed at the estate rivaled major museums in its scope and quality. Hearst's parties at San Simeon became legendary, reveal how Hearst used the estate to bring together the most powerful and famous people of his era. Financial pressures in the 1930s forced Hearst to sell portions of his art collection, but he managed to keep the estate itself. Today, San Simeon operates as a California State Historical Monument. Number 4. Jean Harlow, the Platinum Blonde's House of Tragedy. Jean Harlow's Beverly Hills home seemed elegant and typical for a movie star, but it became infamous due to the tragic events that occurred there. The house gained notoriety after the sudden death of her husband, Paul Byrne, whose mysterious demise sparked endless speculation and conspiracy theories that haunted the property for decades. The circumstances surrounding Byrne's death were suspicious enough to generate persistent rumors about what really happened that night. Police reports and newspaper accounts from the time reveal conflicting stories and unexplained evidence that kept the mystery alive, making the house a subject of morbid fascination. Tragically, Harlow herself died at just 26 years old, adding another layer of sadness to the property's history. Her early death from kidney disease shocked Hollywood and added to the perception that the house might be cursed or unlucky for those who lived there. Subsequent owners reported strange occurrences and unsettling experiences, though whether these were genuinely supernatural or the result of suggestion and folklore is impossible to determine. The house's reputation grew over time, with each new story adding to its legendary status as a haunted Hollywood location. Beyond the tragic events, events, the house also revealed glimpses of Harlow's private personality. Friends and staff noted that she filled her home with books and personal keepsakes that showed interests beyond her platinum blonde bombshell image, suggesting a more thoughtful and complex person than her public persona revealed. The house still stands today, though it has been renovated several times by owners trying to escape its tragic associations. However, the stories persist, and film fans continue to view it as a reminder of how quickly Hollywood dreams can turn into nightmares. Beyond the tragic events, the house also revealed glimpses of Harlow's private personality. Friends and staff noted that she filled her home with books and personal keepsakes that showed interests beyond her platinum blonde bombshell image, suggesting a more thoughtful and complex person than her public persona revealed. The house still stands today, though it has been renovated several times by owners trying to escape its tragic associations. However, the stories persist, and film fans continue to view it as a reminder of how quickly Hollywood dreams can turn into nightmares. Number 3. Harold Lloyd, the Thrill Seeker's Green Paradise. Harold Lloyd's massive estate, known as Green Acres, perfectly reflected the ambition and creativity that made him one of silent comedy's biggest stars. The property, boasting 44 rooms and situated on extensive grounds in Beverly Hills, showcased Lloyd's success and his passion for innovation in every detail. The estate featured remarkable amenities that demonstrated Lloyd's wealth and playful nature. A 50-foot-long living room designed for entertaining, multiple fountains throughout the grounds, and meticulously manicured gardens that required a full-time staff to maintain. Every element was designed to impress and delight visitors. Lloyd's creative spirit showed up throughout the property. He designed a private zoo, a 9-hole golf course, and even a secret room where he stored his extensive collection of film memorabilia and equipment. These weren't just expensive toys. They represented Lloyd's genuine interests and his desire to push boundaries in every aspect of his life. The estate served as more than just a home, it was a center for Hollywood's creative community. Lloyd hosted elaborate parties and gatherings where the industry's biggest names would come together, making Green Acres one of the social hubs of silent-era Hollywood. However, as talking pictures transformed the industry, Lloyd found it increasingly difficult to maintain such an elaborate property. The transition to sound films didn't favor his particular talents, and the estate became a financial burden rather than a symbol of success. By the 1970s, much of the original estate had been sold off to manage costs. While the main residence still stands and is now a historic landmark, the loss of the larger property symbolized the end of an era when individual creativity and talent could build such extraordinary personal kingdoms. Number 2. Clark Gable, the King's Hidden Ranch. Clark Gable, despite his status as the King of Hollywood, found his true peace not in a glamorous mansion, but at a secluded ranch in Encino. This property revealed a side of Gable that contrasted sharply with his sophisticated screen image, a man who craved simplicity and connection to the land. The ranch, built in the 1930s, didn't boast the architectural grandeur of other stars' homes, but it offered something more valuable to Gable: privacy and authenticity. Set amidst farmland and rolling hills, the property allowed him to pursue interests that had nothing to do with Hollywood glamour. Extensive stables and well-maintained riding trails reflected Gable's genuine love of horses and the outdoors. Friends and staff noted that he seemed most relaxed when riding across his property, away from the pressures and artificiality of the movie business. Rather than hosting lavish Hollywood parties, Gable preferred casual barbecues and intimate gatherings at the ranch. These events revealed a more natural, unguarded version of the man who charmed millions on screen, but often felt overwhelmed by the demands of fame. The ranch became especially important to Gable after personal tragedies, particularly the death of his beloved wife Carol Lombard in a plane crash. Local residents recalled seeing him walking the property alone, finding solace in its tranquil atmosphere during his darkest periods. The property represented Gable's attempt to maintain some connection to his pre-Hollywood roots and values. In a town built on image and artificiality, the ranch offered him a place where he could simply be himself without performance or pretense. Number 1. Cary Grant, the elegant star's understated sanctuary. Cary Grant's Beverly Hills home perfectly embodied the understated elegance that made him one of Hollywood's most sophisticated leading men. Unlike the ostentatious mansions favored by many stars, Grant's residence was notable for what it didn't reveal rather than what it displayed. Nestled behind tall hedges and understated gates, the house reflected Grant's preference for privacy and discretion. Visitors noted that the exterior gave no hint of the star power it contained, suggesting an owner who didn't need to prove his importance through architectural excess. Inside, the decor struck a perfect balance between refinement and comfort. Grant's personal taste favored quality over quantity, with carefully chosen pieces that reflected his appreciation for craftsmanship and design without appearing showy or pretentious. The property featured winding garden paths and intimate entertaining spaces that were perfect for the small, carefully curated gatherings Grant preferred. Rather than hosting massive Hollywood parties, he invited close friends for quiet evenings of conversation and private screenings of his latest films. Rumors persisted of a hidden alcove behind the library shelves, possibly providing access to a private study or simply representing Grant's appreciation for classic mystery and intrigue. Whether this feature actually existed or was simply part of Grant's carefully cultivated mystique remains unclear. Grant's approach to his home reflected his broader philosophy about fame and success. He understood that true sophistication came not from displaying wealth, but from living well, surrounding himself with beauty and comfort without resorting to gaudy displays of excess. The house continued to be whispered about in Hollywood circles even after Grant moved on, representing an ideal of how a major star could live with both luxury and restraint. In an industry often characterized by excess and ostentation, Grant's understated sanctuary reminded everyone that sometimes the most elegant statement is the quietest one. The real estate reality. These 21 celebrity mansions prove one expensive truth: weird doesn't sell. Most of these properties either got demolished or sold at massive losses because nobody else wanted to live inside someone's personal fantasy. Jane Mansfield's Pink Palace, Gloria Swanson's Casa del Sol, and countless others met the wrecking ball not because they weren't spectacular, but because they were too spectacular for normal humans. The stars who spent millions creating these architectural monuments to their egos discovered a harsh reality. The same features that expressed their personalities also made their homes unsellable white elephants. Try explaining to a real estate agent why you need a heart-shaped pink pool or secret tunnels in every room. From Charlie Chaplin's spy tunnels to Howard Hughes's hermit fortress, these celebrities proved that unlimited money plus unchecked ego equals architectural insanity. They created homes so personalized that they became prisons. Beautiful, expensive prisons that trapped their owners in their own weird visions. The next time you think celebrities have perfect lives, remember that some of them literally couldn't escape the bizarre worlds they built for themselves. Sometimes having everything means losing touch with reality entirely. Which of these weird celebrity homes shocked you the most? Can you imagine actually living in any of these places? Let us know in the comments. We love hearing your thoughts on Hollywood's strangest real estate disasters. If you enjoyed this tour through celebrity architectural madness, smash that like button and subscribe for more shocking stories about how the rich and famous really live. Trust us, their problems are way weirder than yours. Until next time, be grateful your house has normal colored walls and doors that lead to actual rooms.